how's another 30K in your bank account? If that's interesting, then you're going to want to hear today's conversation. What's up, FlowChat fam? Hey, Chris, your CEO, co-founder of FlowChat, and we have another real entrepreneur getting real results, not just for herself, but for others as well. She's been in the space of client attraction for quite a long time. This is why we wanted to have a conversation all together so that you can, you listening, watching, can also benefit. So, Hailey, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, excited to get into the conversation. Usually the hook is there and then you eventually get into the conversation. That content drives me nuts. And so I always like to start right with the result. There's a recent example that you were sharing as we were talking, 30K in sales. Where was this taking place?
Yeah, so this was with a client of mine who was using LinkedIn for her business and not just relying on posting all the time on Instagram and Facebook, because as you know, those posts go away pretty quickly. We forget about them. Not everybody sees them. And so I'm a big fan of doing other things to grow your business. And LinkedIn in particular was what we were working on.
Well, but Hailey, it's so fun to just endlessly post and post and post. And for some time, maybe, hopefully, it will happen and turn into something. I'm just kidding. So, like, that's great that there's other ways of going about it. What was working?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple things. So one of the things that I would love to share with your audience, especially if you get easily overwhelmed with marketing, is it all comes back to what I call the 4 basics of client attraction. So we were applying this on LinkedIn, but the general overview of what we were doing was connecting, and I'll go through each one in a little more detail in a second, but connecting, engaging, pre-offer, and then the sales stage. Okay, so what we were doing is connecting with her ideal clients and partners on LinkedIn. We were then engaging with them, so taking an interest in them. So not just coming at them with, hey, here's what I do, here's what I'm about, here's what I want
Here's
from
my
you.
business card.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Taking an interest with an intentional question, and then going into what I call a pre-offer, which is giving value up front and having that opportunity to provide a quick win, and then going into the sales conversation. So in a grand nutshell, that is what we were doing. But on a more specific level, we were connecting in LinkedIn's messaging section, right? Because LinkedIn is a networking platform. So people expect networking. And what we don't do, here's what doesn't work, sending a very, and I'm sure you know this and your community knows this, but sending a very long or salesy or intense message up front. That is not what I recommend. We definitely take the approach of relationship building, asking powerful questions, and then permission-based pre-offers, which is like something of value, a freebie, a call with you, something along those lines.
Totally makes sense. Not selling right away is the simple punchline, building relationship like you're saying. I look at that as a spectrum. As you go in too fast, too hard, and it's a turnoff. No one likes it. But on the other end of the spectrum is it's not direct enough, and then you kind of just get lost in these conversations, and it really doesn't work or go anywhere either. Clearly it works, but that's the spectrum. Where do we need to fall on the spectrum?
I'm so glad you asked that, because if your question to somebody in LinkedIn messaging is something like, hey, what's your favorite color? Or how was your weekend? Like, there's sometimes not any intentionality, and I think it is important to be direct and not hide why you're trying to connect with them, or ask an intentional question. So what I mean by that is you want to, rather than obviously being like, hey, I'm a such and such agency owner or coach, and do you want help with blah, blah, blah? You might instead just try to learn about where they're coming from and have a question that can allow you to guide the conversation to an intentional pre-offer you have or thing of value, or see if they're even in the market or ballpark of who you're trying to connect with. So a better question would be something along the lines of, like, let's say I have a client who is an executive coach, and she works with leaders who are feeling like they can't advance in the workplace. They're feeling invisible by their boss. And so she was asking something along the lines of like, are you looking to advance but feel like sometimes your work goes unnoticed? Or sometimes we just go for, like for me, I typically will say something along the lines of like, what are you working on in your business these days? Because I can either guide them to something that, like, let's say they're working on their book. Oh, well, I had a podcast interview with somebody who talks about how to promote your book. Would that be useful to you? So you see how you want to ask a question where you could go somewhere with it or not, but learn if they're kind of in your target audience and if it makes sense to keep talking. Does that help a little bit?
I believe so. Yeah. So we're kind of having a conversation around this spectrum. And one key thing that I heard you say is targeted questions or strategic questions, guiding it towards a direction, so that it doesn't go in the abyss of nowhere direction. That way you can get to some of the results. Great. So I imagine some of those best practices resulted in, this isn't the only success, but one of the recent successes that you got to see with one of your clients getting to that 30K in sales. Was that one sale, a few sales?
Yeah, a couple of high ticket sales for her. And then she ended up actually getting an in-house coaching job at a company that was way more than that, but a part-time position too. So you can really use LinkedIn, not just for, there's several ways you can use it. One is for potential clients for your high ticket program. One might be to even look into job opportunities. Another would be partnerships or being on podcasts or forming affiliate partners, or even seeing if you could collaborate with people like yourself, Chris, to do a live like we're doing right now. So that's what I love about it so much, is she was able to take different angles with who she was talking with, and it ended up resulting in clients, but also an opportunity she didn't even see coming to work within a company.
That's awesome. Activity creates competency, right? You learn more about what's going on, who and how you can connect with others in the world. Let's be a little bit more granular for a second on LinkedIn. You mentioned, hey, man, there's all these different possibilities and people you can connect with and talk to. How do we find them?
Yeah. So there's a couple ways. One is, and I want to just really quickly say, before you start this process, make sure your LinkedIn profile is optimized, like you're saying what you do, and you maybe have some, your about section set up properly, and hopefully some featured posts pinned to your profile. So just one side note is, like, before you go into this, let's make sure you set up your profile.
Is it okay if we do just a couple of like quick best practices? And I'll put myself out there for everyone to just totally you might have to like tear me apart here. There we go. I'll share a screen here, and this is my LinkedIn profile. Where does your eye go? What's wrong with it? What could be better?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is fun. So first of all, I like that right under your name, you're utilizing that little part that says CEO, co-founder of FlowChat. But
okay.
What would be cool is if you had something in there either that establishes your credibility. So where you say, like, either if FlowChat won an award, or if FlowChat is the #1 recommended thing by such and such publication, or featured in blah, 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 something like that would be good. And you can separate that from the other one, because there's a limited amount of characters you can use there. So
right.
You'd have to use that vertical line. You know what I'm talking about? Like, you need to separate it.
Oh, yeah, I think so. Like if we're in here, what's that little guy? Shift and then there, like that one.
Yeah, there you go. That's better. Yeah. So you could have that. Yeah. You could have something that establishes credibility. And then you could also have something that says what FlowChat even does. So like the results it provides. So if you could say something like simplifying client attraction. I don't know. I'm just making something up, but like put whatever. What is FlowChat's main thing?
And does that go? So I noticed like headline and position. Where would we put that exactly?
So it would be your headline is what we're talking about right now.
Okay. So that, like, this could be, rather than say, hey, here's who I am or what I am currently, say something more promotional, something more authority establishing. Okay, that's helpful. I appreciate it. Oh, and then I guess there was like, what's this? Additional name. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Now, what else you're not using that's a super cool feature on LinkedIn is in that top section right there. You could edit that, and you could put a freebie link.
Which one?
So the not the cover photo, right below where you just were when we were talking about the headline. Yeah, if you
Okay.
scroll down all the way.
Oh, look at all these sections.
Oh yeah. So you see that website one?
Uh-huh.
You could put a freebie in there, and then below that they have
This is as far as it goes on my one, on my
okay.
profile.
If do you not pay for?
No, I just have the free LinkedIn right now. Yeah.
Okay. So in that case, you could put your website then. You could just put at least your website, or you could put a freebie link page. But if you have the paid version, or at least for me, I can see one right underneath that where I could put what I want the text to say that I want the website to. So you could be like, free guide, blah, 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 whatever your free guide is.
Got it. Okay. I love it. Okay, so that's really helpful.
Yeah, I like that you have a smiling profile picture. I like that you have a cover photo there with a call to action. Now, if you scroll down, one thing you can also use on your profile is a featured section. So you would add a section to your profile called a featured section, and you could do that, I don't know where you go do that, but
might be a trail to go down, maybe like in settings somewhere or something. Settings.
Profile. Oh, I think we go to maybe more on your profile, or no, add a profile section. Sorry.
Add a profile section where
on your profile, so not in that section there, where you have your picture and nope.
Here we go. Profile section. Sorry, there we go. All right, got it.
So you could go to. There should be one to add featured. Yeah, there you go. Add featured. Now,
okay.
In this, you could put top testimonials, link to your top testimonials. You could put a link to your best podcast if you have one. You could put anything that you really want people to see right away when they come to your profile.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah,
this is great. Is there any other, there's a whole new world opening up right now. It's happening as we're watching. So it's like skills, position, all this stuff, recommended features, license certification, add courses, add recommendations. Do you use any of these other ones or just the featured section?
Yeah, recommendations, because you could have, for example, after we do this interview, I could leave you a recommendation and be like, Chris is an awesome interviewer, and everybody can come to your page and see like testimonials kind of on your own LinkedIn. So cool. That would be a good one to have as well.
Cool. Appreciate it. Yeah, this is great. Any last thoughts on profile?
Last thoughts would just be in a general, just so we don't take up the whole time on this, sure. But would be set up your about section with the highlights and benefits you provide of what you do. Set up your job description section to have bullet points underneath it about what you do and where you want to send them. But other than that, I think those are pretty much the basics. Make sure you have a smiling profile like you do, looking at the camera, all that good stuff. So now, once you have a profile, now we can talk about finding your ideal clients.
Yeah, so, we can bring it back.
Yeah, for sure. And if anybody watching this has a LinkedIn account and wants to connect, I'm Hailey Rowe on LinkedIn, and happy to take a look at your profile, give you some feedback if you'd like. But one of the things that you have to do now is there's two options. So if you have the unpaid version of LinkedIn, which is totally fine, you can join LinkedIn groups, or you can search your ideal client's job title, or you can search within mutual connections in your town, or you can search specific things in the search bar on LinkedIn. Now you get a limited number of searches when you're not using a paid LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which we use for our clients. But it's a great way. You can still meet a lot of people and send a lot of connection requests just from those two things. So with groups, let's say my audience, now if you have a B2C, meaning if you're a coach for moms, obviously LinkedIn, you're going to have to adapt your messaging just a little bit, because there's no filter on LinkedIn to be like, I'm a mom, this is my profile, So, and there's not going to be necessarily LinkedIn groups that are just focused on moms. There might be, you could search it, but usually it'll be centered around something professional. So it could be maybe a lot of that's not to say though that you can't join like women's entrepreneur group, women professional groups, and
Right.
within there there's going to be moms, right? So, but if you have a B2B, like if you're a copywriter for authors, you could find author groups, you could find stuff like that. And so in those groups, I don't even think you should use those groups to be like, well, I mean, I think you can post in them and stuff, but it's not going to be that great it's not as hopping, quote unquote, as Facebook groups. Like, it's not a place to be jamming with people all the time. They're not very active most of the time. But the members, once you get accepted into those groups, the members list is totally who you could be sending connection requests to. And same thing with like, if you know your ideal client tends to work at Home Depot, it's a super random example, but if they do, you could go to Home Depot's company page and you can see their employees list, and that's how you could find people. So there's a wide, I mean, it's unlimited as far as how you can find people, either through other people's posts or searching or groups. But that's important to start getting your hands into sending connection requests. And you can do 200 of those maximum per week right now. LinkedIn sometimes changes that. There was a time where you could only do 100, but now you can do 200 a week.
They bumped it back up, did they?
They did, yes.
Go in the other direction. This is good to know. I actually didn't know that. Let's talk about SSI for a second. Social Selling Index. Have you heard this term? We'll start with that. Have you heard of the term SSI?
I know social selling. I don't know social selling index.
Okay, yeah, it's not as common. We won't hang on this one too long, and because frankly I don't know a ton about it yet myself either. But when you mentioned 100 messages a week, now it's back up to 200. The higher your social selling index score, I think it's a feature that comes within Sales Navigator, or there might be some other tools that provide it. Anyway, the point is, if you have a higher score, you can send more messages because you're more credible or something. So I think you can find it on LinkedIn's, one of like a LinkedIn article or support something, but it's not as popular or often talked about or measured. So for whatever it's worth, at least we can do 200 messages now.
Yay, yeah. 200 connection requests. So you can actually connections. If you're already connected with somebody, you can do more messages like that. That's fine. But connection requests, if you're trying to get people in your network on LinkedIn, 200 is the max.
That's the max. Cool. I like it. Well, thank you so much for spending some time today with our audience talking about LinkedIn best practices, profile, all that. If someone's leaning into this and still looking for a little bit more support on this, where's the best place to find you?
Yeah, so my Instagram, as you can see right here, is Hailey_Rowe. Would love to get a DM from you and just hear that you check this out. And if you want my free LinkedIn scripts examples, I have put together two options for you. One is like a script for potential clients, and one is more for partnerships if you're looking to use LinkedIn to collaborate. So you can get that at haileyrowe.kartra. That's KARTRA.com/page/LinkedIn. I haven't set up my redirect link, so sorry, it's a icky link. But if you want the direct link sent to you, you can just DM me on Instagram, LinkedIn script, and I'll remember to send it to you. But that's the link for right now.
There you go. DM Hailey on Instagram, and you can get access to some scripts. Knowing what to say, someone would say half the battle. It might even be more, like 80% of the battle, and then finding the right people. That's why I wanted to focus on today. When you find the right people, search methods, and you're presentable in your profile, so it's like easy to connect with you, and you're like, oh, I could talk and connect with this person. And you combine that with the right message, it equals more sales every single time. As we're wrapping up, Hailey, I always like to ask, what drives people, essentially? So I'm asking, why do you do what you do? I'll give you a second to think. What fascinates me are musicians and athletes and creators of all kind, even entrepreneurs and business leaders. Like, there's such a leadership. There's so much that comes with leadership, and it takes a unique mind and person to plow through all that's required to accomplish all that. What drives you, Hailey?
Oh, yes. So 3 things came to mind and they're quick, so don't worry. Number 1,
Yeah.
I love helping others have their internal locus of control. So I work with a lot of entrepreneurs who feel like in the beginning of their work with me, like, oh, I'm just hoping to get clients. I hope it all works out. And I really like to help them create and see that they can set a goal, they can set a result they want, and they can create it with their actions, thoughts, and strategy. So that drives me a lot. And then number 2 would be I want to make the world a better place by helping people who are making the world a better place, whether they're doing life coaching, health coaching, helping people save time, which is one of our most precious things. And I want to help them be able to actually use their craft, use their talent, use their skill by having a sustainable business that they can keep doing. And then the last thing I would say, oh my gosh, now I forgot it. Maybe I covered it. I don't know.
Best for last. Well, that's all the time we have for you today, and you can't. Yeah, no, I'm.
Oh my gosh, that's gonna drive me nuts now. But I love what I do, and I'm having a brain moment.
That's okay. It's okay. It happens to all of us. I appreciate you spending some time with us, Hailey, and sharing a few things that have been working for you recently.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And thank you, FlowChat fam, for spending your time and attention here with us on the Member Spotlight, finding real entrepreneurs, getting real results. Look, it is challenging. It is hard being an entrepreneur, solving all the different problems, building all the different skill sets required. But you don't have to, it can be lonely, but you don't have to do it alone. The Spotlight's designed for all of us to kind of hang out with other like-minded crazy people like you, like me, like Hailey for today. For more episodes and this type of content, stay tuned because we're not even close to done. We're going to keep bringing the heat. All right, we'll see you guys next time.